Chromebooks down. We're not going to be using our Chromebooks until the last part of class, and so we won't need those right away. And so before we get started, you guys can put those down. We're going to start by talking about what we were covering last week. So last week we put a lot of time into writing equations in different forms, creating equations so we can use them to solve problems. We started off with word problems, and then we moved into just kind of the pure algebra stuff of it. And so last week we worked on writing equations in standard form, right? X and y on the same side, and then slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. And so we're going to start today by reviewing what we talked about last week. And so remember that around the room activity that we did where you would try to find a question and it would take you as a scavenger hunt around? We're going to do that as practice today just to see where we're at, because we know one thing. How many felt really good about this last week? They felt pretty good about kind of writing the equations. But we also know, Chase, that what happens over the weekend?
I can't remember.
You forget, right? You forget over the weekend. And so we need more practice on it. So we want to start off with practice. What I passed out in front of you is writing equation sheet that we just want to talk about together, that Mr. Parker and I want to go over for a couple minutes. Just to give you a quick review. You need one, Braden? Yes. A quick review before we get started. And so if you could make sure this paper's out in front of you. If I say write an equation in slope-intercept form, like number one asks, Daniel, what's the thing we think about when we say slope-intercept form? What do we want to come to mind?
The rise and run, right?
So the slope is definitely rise over run, right? So that's definitely good at slope. We think rise over run. But when I say slope-intercept form, help them out. What do we think of when we see slope-intercept form? Y equals mx plus b. So up here where it says write the equation in slope-intercept form, before we start kind of talking about it, will you take a minute with your partner? Take a minute with your partner and try to write the equation for number one in slope-intercept form. So it might be that you guys don't even need us to go over one. So let's try to think about number one. Write the equation in slope-intercept form. Missing a few people, Mr. Parker.
Yeah, I know, we are.
So you know how to do this one? Right. So we need to know two things, right? We need to know the slope and the y-intercept. Hey, Vince. So does the weekend destroy it? Did it just take it all away? It's gone.
It's gone.
It was there and now it's gone. I did. Morgan, it was there and it's gone. So that's why we go back over on Monday. You guys? Okay.
So,
Mr. Parker, do you want to do this one?
sure, I can. You want to do it right now? Or
Yeah, I think that people are going,
Okay, so
I lost it, right? I think that's where people are at.
that's right. If you got it, awesome. If you're not quite sure, take a look up at the board real quick. If I want to write this in slope-intercept form, remember we have to have y equals mx plus b, right? So I need two things out of just this. There aren't any numbers written there for me. All we have is the graph. And so I know I need my slope, and I know I need my b value. Okay, so if I'm after my slope, I need to find the rise over the run, or in this case it looks like we're falling. I can pick any two spots to count, right? But I kind of want to make sure I pick two spots that are going to be easy to work with. Because if I pick something here, that's kind of floating in the middle. So I'm going to want to pick this spot right here. And is there another spot that's right on a line that's going to be easy to kind of work with? You guys see down here? Yeah, if you look down here at -4, next to -4, I can look right there, right? And so from here, let's figure out, well, how far are we going down if I go all the way down here? What's that count, you guys?
8.
Yeah, if I go down from 4 to 0 is 4. If I slide down another 4, that gets me to -8. And then from there, how many spots forward are we going?
1.
Just one forward. Right? So -8 over 1 would be the same as what? -8. Okay. And so the first part that I needed is just -8, and I can slide that in for my slope value. Now, if I want my b value, what do I look at from that? yeah, where does this actually hit the y-axis? Where is my y-intercept? And it doesn't hit way down here, it hits way up here at positive what? Positive 4. And so my b value is a positive 4. And so I can finish it with negative ax plus 4.
Is it coming back to you guys?
Yep.
What do you think, Michelle? You're good. So when we say slope-intercept form, we do really need two things, right? In y equals mx plus b, we really are looking for the slope and the y-intercept, those two things. And so it's just a matter of what does a graph tell us? Well, it does tell us the y-intercept, but we have to kind of look at it. It does tell us the slope, but we have to know rise over run. What about if you look at number 2? Now, you guys couldn't do number 2 on your own because it's missing some key information. But if you look at number 2, are the directions the same?
Yeah.
What do they want us to do?
Right slope intercept.
Write the slope-intercept form. So we know we want it to be y equals mx brush bar. Now, in this case, they're going to give us some information. They're going to say, imagine it has a slope of -1. So imagine a line that's going down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1, right? It's got a slope of -1. And then it passes through the point -5, comma, -1. So imagine it gives you this information. It goes through the point -5, -1, and has a slope of -1. And so we talked last week about how we could possibly find the information that we need, right? How could we find out the slope and the y-intercept? And so one of the things we know right away is it tells us the slope. It says the slope is -1. What about this? What is this telling us? It's telling us an x value and its corresponding y. And so if we look at it, we have a y, we have an m and an x. We're only missing b. So how can we find it? You guys remember? You remember, Kirsten?
Yes.
All right, let's take a stab at it. What do you think we would do?
We would put the numbers where they go. So the slope would be the m, and then the -5 would be the x.
Okay.
We would put it out like that where they go.
Does that sound right to you guys? We just put them in the right spot. So what goes in the y spot? -1, because that's our y value, equals, what was our slope? -1 as well. Multiplied, remember mx is multiplied, so -1 times, now what's our x value? -5 plus b. So Kirsten, is that what you were thinking? How does that help us find b? I agree that we could do that. Is that what we need to do? And you're shaking your head yes, right? Because could we clean this up? What is -1 times -5? +5. So we can turn this into -1 equals 5 plus b. But then how would we find b? We solve it like normal, right? So how do I get rid of a +5? Subtract it. So then what do I get for a y-intercept? -1 subtract 5 is -6. Now is this my answer?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
It's an answer.
We need that.
No, that's wrong.
We need that.
Yeah.
Yep, you got y equals.
So if my goal is to write it in slope-intercept form, if this is my goal, do I know the m now? Do I know the slope? Yep. Do I know the y-intercept? Yep. So could I write everything I needed? So y equals -1x, because -1 is my slope. We're just, again, filling in the pieces we know. If my y-intercept is a -6, how could I write it? -6. Is there any other ways I could write it? I could do a plus and -6, but we prefer the -6. Are we done now?
Yeah.
Yep. You got to circle it.
Thumbs up, sideways down. How you guys feeling on this? Is it coming back to you? Still a little? Okay. You got a good eye?
Yeah.
All right, and so what if I change the directions? Instead of doing a bunch of these, what if I change the directions here? I'm like, you know what? I changed my mind. I don't want it in slope-intercept form anymore.
Oh, my.
I'm just going to change. You know what? You guys did all that work. It was great. But I messed up. What if I said instead, I want right standard form. Did we do all that work for nothing?
Yes. Yeah, but 40 grow, and it's really not so bad, as long as you remember what standard form is.
Who does remember what standard form is? Melina, that's it? Jed, what about you? Remember standard form? Okay, you remember standard? Remember, we want to make sure we know standard form. So in the classroom, we have a couple posters too. Slope-intercept forms there, standards form there. We also have it on the sideboard over there, what they are. But what is standard form? That's the one where x's and y's are on the same side, they're on the left side. So what if I said standard form? I would do all of this work, but at the end, where does this x need to go? To the left side. So how do I get rid of a negative 1x?
You add one.
I add 1x. When I add 1x to this side, I have to add it to the other side. And then we talked about what one should come first in standard form. Should we write y plus 1x? No, we want to write the x first, so how would we write it? X. 1x or x is fine. What kind of y is it? Positive, so write plus y equals negative 6. And so if it looks like that, we would do it the exact same way. What do you think, Kaylee? It's all there? All right. You guys ready to practice on your own? You guys ready to go? Yeah. Let's just talk really quick before you guys get into it. What if I said this? You see that? Fail. All right, what if I said it goes through the point 1, 4? Is that big enough? Can you guys even see that?
Yeah.
What if I say it goes to the point 1, 4 and 0, negative 1? And the directions again are write the slope-intercept form. So it wants y equals mx plus b. How does this change the problem? What don't we know? We don't know the slope. But from last chapter, what do we know about slope? It's just the, this is what we need to come back to. What is slope again? Change in which one? Change in y divided by the change in x. Once we find the slope, it's the exact same as the last problem. But we want to find the change in y over change in x. So to find the change in y's, you look at your y values, which are 4 and negative 1. They're the second one in each one. From 4 to negative 1, a lot of you guys can do this in your head. If you had $4, you ended up at negative $1. What just happened? You lost 5. So if you wanted to, you could just say negative 5. You can do it in your head. But remember, to find the change in anything, you can always subtract the second from the first. So if you're not good at doing it in your head, you can always do negative 1 subtract 4, which would give you down 5. What about the change in x's? From 1 to 0. From $1 ended up at nothing. What just happened? I just spent $1, right? So how do you show losing $1? Negative 1. So if my slope is negative 5 over negative 1, we clean it up just as a positive 5. So now we have the exact same information we had in number 2. We know the slope is 5. And we know it goes through these points. Now when we did this last time, it only gave us 1 point. Now we have 2 points. So we talked about just pick the one that you want to use. So which one do you guys want to use? You want to just pick the first one?
Yeah.
So let's say the slope is 5 and it goes through the point 1, 4. We just did this work. Our goal is to get it into y equals mx plus b. Mr. Parker and I are going to walk around. You guys try to plug in the information and find b, and then write the equation. We're going to see just before, we're going to see if we're ready to send you off into the wild on your own.
Kill a wolf.
I hope not.
And become a man.
And become a man. Yeah, there. What's up? Yeah, just right now. Yeah, let's go. Question ready? How many children? So you're going to start just the way we started this one, plugging in your y value. That's your y value. Just the y spot. Yep. 5 times. Yep. Mr. Parker, in a minute, want to go through the other? I want to talk to Darren. Is it coming back to you, Samantha? A little bit. What's that? So why do you, oh, you use that number. Okay. Yeah, just don't forget the X, right?
Thank you.
So, that. There, now we're kind of running out of room, but.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. So, what I want to do if I want to get B by itself. We want to move this out of there, this positive 5. And it's positive. How would I want to move it out of there? Yep.
But they have pockets.
Yeah, let's get rid of that.
I forgot about
No, I'll move it.
We can take pictures of the places because we don't know make sure we can
So you're showing me the 5.
see.
Right? And then let's just clean that up, and that'll give us our B value.
You are. Sorry.
All right, here, what you got, buddy?
So now that we have that, we just need to put that together, right? So rewriting this, now we have now we have the B value.
You got the right information.
So
Which one is your slope? Was your slope negative X? Was that your Y?
so what's your slope?
Negative.
Comes out front.
What was your Y-intercept?
What's your slope? That's the very first thing we found, right?
Oh, you put the wrong number in. Good, good. We just gotta be careful about how.
Well, let me write down conservative 1.
Really, really?
Let's just try this one, right? Either one.
No, it was 8th grade.
Yeah, you got this?
All right, we're ready to go. Looks like
Are we
you're
ready,
good. Looks
Lauren?
like you're good. Yep, go ahead and go through it and then we'll get them running.
Okay. Sounds good. So it looks like we're at the point with this problem, you guys, where we have about half the information we need, right? We already have the slope, which is 5. So just like the one we did above, we still need our y-intercept or our b value. So I'm going to write down what I have. I know I have my slope. And I'm going to leave myself a little space here to figure out, to move and figure out what b is. So again, I need to make a decision. I need to choose. Do I want to choose 1 and 4 or 0 and -1? It doesn't really matter, but if I choose, I have to choose both, right? Which one's going to be probably easier to work with in the long run, you guys? 1 and 4 or 0 and -1? I think 1 and 4. Either one is that difficult, but I would just choose the first one just so I can avoid that negative number. And so out front, if I choose this one, I'm going to plug in 4, that's my y value. With my x, I'm going to plug in 1, that's my x value. And from there, it's just solving. So the first thing I'm going to want to take care of is 5 times 1, which is 5. How do I get the b by itself? What would I do with a 5?
Help them out, guys.
Come on, again. Subtract it. So if I'm kind of running out of room, but if I clean this up, in the end, 4 minus 5 gives me a b value of -1. No, I'm not quite done. I do have everything I need though, right? I have my slope is 5, my b value is -1. The original directions though were to write down the slope-intercept form. I just need to put everything together. So y equals, well, my slope value is 5, so 5x. And again, we run into the same thing we did above it. Can I write down -1 plus -1? What's best, probably? Probably 5x minus 1.
If you guys wanted to move that to standard form, you would just take the x and move it to the other side. So what we want to do is we just did a couple together, but we want to give you guys some practice. You can just slide that down for Mr. Parker so it's on there. But we want to give you guys some practice to see. Now, Garrett, Michael, Peyton, right? We practice so we kind of see where we're at. So Zoe, we're either going to be really good, we're going to be good but we need more practice, or we're going to realize that we need help. But the reason we practice is so we can kind of see where we're at. So do you guys remember doing this around the room practice? How many of you guys did this before, just so I know? Was it everybody in here? I couldn't remember how we did. And so what I need you guys to do first is I need